So let's modify an existing base map. First of all, before we modify the work that someone else has done, let's save it so that if we completely screw this up, we can always start fresh and go back to this 8.5 by 11 landscape. So we'll go to File, Save As, and I have one in here called Landscape 2. So we'll just use that. Yeah, I want to replace that one because that's just for training. So let's say I've got my regional map, but I want to do a map showing the area of Lampasas County. So I zoom into my data. You notice that all my elements on the page stay the same. If I wanted to zoom in here, I'd use this zoom to page tool. And then I could see where things are. So let me go back out to the entire page. And what do we want to change? Well, at this point, our disclaimer is now overlapping our data. It may be hard to read, or the client may not be able to see it. So what we're going to do is grab our cursor here and start moving these rectangles around, and we're going to modify this base map to suit our own purposes. So let's say we weren't interested in having the pretty logo. We're going to ungroup these two items. You can either move this off on the side and keep it. You may decide you want to use it later, or you can delete it if you know where to find that image. So now we're going to move our address block over, holding the Control key and that arrow. We can move it back to the vertical center. Let's move our guide down, squeeze it down to the size of that address. We'll snap that. I think we're going to leave the legend as it is for right now, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to change the properties of the scale bar. Instead of 3 divisions, we're going to give it 4, which will bring it down to 8 miles. And then we can use our arrow keys and we can shift to the right. And then we'll use the shift text box, hitting the file name. We're going to add a guide by clicking up here on our rulers. Grab our rectangles, resize those. We're going to select a rectangle and we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it. Now we're going to snap it to our guides right here. Now we've just added another divider. Here's another trick when you're aligning items. They don't have to be anywhere near each other on the page. But the second one that you select is the one that's going to be used as the reference point, so to speak. And let's make sure that's snapped to that vertical guide. So we select our text box, we hold down Control, we select the rectangle. We align it to the center, and then we align it to the vertical center. Great. And we want to jump in here and check and make sure, see, we've got a problem. We want to make sure that these boxes stay snapped to their lines. When you print that, it may not be real visible on the screen, but when you print it, it'll jump out at you. And it's all about having a clean, professional looking map. So let's zoom back out to the whole page. And for those of you who may be getting confused at this point, this is the layout toolbar. If you don't have one, click up here and check layout. So we've modified the base map. Some of you may have noticed up here that the title block has a transparency to it and it's letting the data come through, and that's kind of distracting too, and we don't want that. So we select it. Well, how come we can't edit the text? Because it's grouped. So we ungroup it. We click away. When you have more than one item or even one item selected that you want to unselect real quick, the easiest way to unselect it is just to click off of the map. So now we want to select the rectangle and take the properties of that and make it white. Now, once again, we want to center the text box on the rectangle, so we hit the text box first, then we hit Control and select the rectangle. And if you're fat-fingered, sometimes you have to, if you grab the rectangle by accident first, you may have to click around in here a few times. Don't worry about it if you don't get it the first time. It's not the end of the world. You right-click, and we'll go ahead and align that center, and we'll align it vertical, and then we'll group it. Unselect it, decide where we want to move it to. Put it over here. See, we have a north arrow here that maybe we don't want. We'll drag it over there. Let's double check our lines there, because I think I see a discrepancy. That turned red, so it snapped. And that turned red, that snapped. So let's double check and make sure everything is centered here. That's good. Text box, rectangle, center centered. Centered and centered. And we'll zoom back out to the map using the zoom whole page. You can use the pan icon to transition the data around in your map. So at this point, let's assume that we're happy with this map. We're going to save this base map. And we come back, we're going to have a client who's come back to us with a request.